Hey everyone, welcome back to Type 2 Cycling. I've got another Zwift video for you today. So I had a go at my third ever Zwift race. This was another Tour de Zwift race on a stage called BRAEk-fast Crits and Grits, something like that. It's like a 22 kilometer mostly flat stage with a hill at the end. So again, I was in the C category, I think it was, on Zwift for this one, but they did bump me up to the next category up at the end of this race. I'm recording this like an hour or two after the end of the race, and my voice is still a bit scratchy for reasons that I'm sure will become clear. But yeah, I hope you enjoy the race, enjoy watching me suffer, and let's get into it. So full disclosure, I did have a go at this race yesterday, which technically was my second ever Zwift race. And I did all right. I think I finished like 25th place out of 90 odd. But I have to be honest, like tactically, it was a really humbling experience. It started off really, really hard, as Zwift races I'm starting to learn always tend to. I was sitting like 30th, 40th position, and thinking back to my first race, I thought, oh, this is fine, like it's all one bunch. I can just float around, then I'll move up, in a little while. Didn't realise that where it kind of climbs quite a bit in the lead in and then at the very beginning of the race, and people were really putting the hammer down, and like the group strung out and then split like at the very beginning of the race. So I ended up like around 40th place, like with a big bunch up the road, and then we were like the second big group. And I kept hoping things would come back together, but they never did. But yeah, 25th place is nothing to be ashamed about, but I was just a bit frustrated because I felt like I didn't work to my full potential. Like I could have maybe done a little bit better if I just, ridden a little bit more smartly and been tactically more aware. So coming into this one today, like my main aim was just make sure I'm warmed up for the start and just go like balls to the wall for the first 10 minutes or so. Like whatever it takes, just make sure I'm at the very front of that front group. And it was really hard work, as we started, like my heart rate very quickly shot up to, the 160s or so, like putting in an unsustainable amount of power just to make sure I stayed with that group, hoping that, after 10 minutes or so, it'll calm down a little bit. And luckily it did for a little while, but not for very long. Like I was having to push 500 watts in places just to make sure I'd stayed at that front group, but I was just so determined to not make the same mistake as yesterday and then get dropped out the back. Knowing that there were flatter bits further along the route, which I should be able to do quite well at, I just had to dig deep and do what I could to stay at the group early on so that I could then sort of play to my advantages a bit later on. As we were about 4k in, there was this first sort of proper little kicker, like 9-10% gradient, something like that. And again, I found myself drifting back, which panics me a little bit, to be honest, because I thought if people are going this hard up every one of those kickers, there's just no chance I'm going to be able to keep repeating efforts that are that intense and still kind of keep something in the tank for the end. So yeah, I was a little bit nervous early on. But yeah, after the initial intensity, it kind of calmed down a bit, and the rest of like the first half of the race was reasonably uneventful. I floated around a little bit, but managed to stick with that front group for the most part. Remember this guy with the red shorts and the teddy or something hanging out of his jersey pocket as well, because he plays a significant part at the end of this race as well. Around halfway through the course, we got to the first of the 4 loops of what's called the Brae circuit. So it starts with like a 500 meter kicker, like fairly short and steep, and then a little downhill, and then kind of levels out until the next kicker. The first time we went up that hill, again, I was pretty taken aback by the intensity. It definitely strung out, and I found myself having to put in like a fairly decent effort just to try and get back into that front group. Again, like this whole time I had a bit of anxiety that it was just going to shoot off, and I've already put in this effort and then I fucked it because they're miles down the road and I'm never going to catch up. But I did my best, kind of hovering around 10th, 15th place. And actually I quite enjoyed this part of the race because it's only a short circuit and it went really quickly. There's like a flatter section in the middle of the circuit, and I was in two minds about what to do here because I knew in theory I could drop the power a little bit, but at the same time I saw a video a few days ago of a guy doing a similar route, and he was talking about how he wanted to keep the pace of the group high to, in effect, like make it that much marginally more difficult for the lighter climbers and try and burn them out a little bit on the flats with like a high absolute speed, so that then they'd have less energy when it came to the climb at the end for like to kick and go up the climb. So I was kind of doing a balancing act of trying to keep the pace high on the flats, and I had a couple of turns on the front hoping that it would string it out, or that people would have to up their power because they wouldn't want to see someone sort of going out ahead. Trying to balance that, putting in the extra power there where I could make it count as like a bigger rider, with not like blowing myself up too much. But that made it a lot of fun, to be honest. Knowing you could not dictate the race but have a little bit of input on sort of other people's strategies as well. And ultimately I was hoping it would give me a better chance of doing well at the climb at the end, knowing that I'm probably going to struggle to keep up with the climbers when it comes to the steeper bits right at the end of the race. And again, anytime it strung out, I just had to try and work my way back up and get near the front of that group. I was so anxious that it was going to string out again and that would be it, like I fucked it. As we were on the fourth and final circuit before the route headed back across to where it started, I was kind of toying with the idea of like tactically what would give me the best chance of winning on a climb, which obviously isn't suited to me at the end. There's a little kicker and then a brief downhill towards the end, and then it kind of kicks up gradually for a while, and then you've got the steep bit right at the end. So I kind of wondered if I should, well, at first I thought maybe I should bomb it down that little downhill, sustain like a reasonably high power on the kind of flatter incline. Whether that meant sort of going solo or like as a little group, I just thought maybe that might string it out, make people work a bit harder than they wanted to, so then the lighter climbers wouldn't be able to kick for the final climb. I wasn't really sure what to do or whether to commit at first, so I kind of found myself floating off the front a bit with just under 4Ks to go. Obviously putting my nose in the wind, which isn't ideal, but I figure at least it's up the pace a bit. It's maybe making people burn a few matches, I don't know. My heart rate was still pretty high at this point, and don't get me wrong, like it had been pretty intense. I've been working quite hard throughout, but I still felt like I had a bit in the legs, which was encouraging. But yeah, coming down that last kicker, I thought I'm going to press on a little bit, just get the pace nice and high, and hopefully, avoid too many people kicking when it got to the climb. It was stringing out a little bit on the shallower incline before the final climb. A group had broken off the front. I think there was probably about 15 of us maybe. So that was good news. That gave me a bit of encouragement. So I was at the front of the group and I found myself just drifting off the front. So I thought, I'm going to stick with this. Just up the power a bit and then I'd see if a gap emerged. And luckily it did, kind of coming into the base of the final climb. And that was all the encouragement I needed to just go for it. So I used my featherweight power up at the steepest bit at the bottom of the climb and tried to maintain sort of 500, 550 watts for as long as I could. And obviously at the bottom of the screen you can see the distance gap from the people behind you, and it was 10, 20, 30 meters. So I thought, actually this could stick. There was about 0.8 kilometers left. I was pedaling away for what felt like an eternity, And then I looked and it was still 0.6 kilometers, and I thought, oh, okay, maybe I've cocked this up, I've gone way too early. And then all of a sudden, a guy was right on my tail, this guy in red, and I thought, nah, this is it, like, I've made a tit of myself, everyone's gonna come past, like, I fucked it. But I held on, see what happens, you never know, I might as well give it everything. Unfortunately, there's like a flatter section in the middle of the climb. I was so lucky that I had that flat bit just to recuperate a tiny bit so that I could go again at the very end of the climb. We got to the sort of second steep part of the climb. I was absolutely blowing out my arse at this point. Like, I was overheating, I was shaking, there was beads of sweat flying off of me all over the place. Like, I was in a bad way. I also had flashbacks of my first Zwift race where I launched my sprint too late. So 150 meters to go, I just thought, right, I need to punch it. And that was it. I beat him by 1/4 of a second. Poor guy. But yeah, it couldn't have worked out more perfectly. So yeah, I was over the moon. Got my first win.
Yes, I did it.
We did it. Be honest, I thought I went way too early on that last climb. I think I got about a minute into it, half a minute into it. My legs are screaming. Then all of a sudden, one guy was like 3 meters behind. I was like, oh shit, like, this is it. They're all gonna come steaming past. But somehow I managed to hold on, drop the heart rate to just below 180 for half a minute or so, catch my breath a tiny bit, and then just give it a kick at the end. And I just about managed to beat him. I don't know how. Fair play to the guy. But yeah, that was probably more luck than skill, I reckon. Or just a bit of raw power at the end, I don't know. But yeah, I'm like so pleased. I haven't been that into Zwift recently, but I've actually enjoyed doing a couple of races. Like, it's a good workout as well. It's like so many repeated sort of hard efforts. I guess the longer races are probably a bit different, but at least these shorter ones I've been doing, yeah, it's good intensity work. It's quite disruptive to the normal training, like interval sessions I've got planned. So I don't know if I'll keep them up regularly, but it's been quite fun. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed the video. If you want to see me do some more races, enjoy seeing me blowing out my arse, then please like the video, leave a comment or something, subscribe to the channel, it'd be really great. I'm gonna go have a protein shake, some food, a shower, maybe a little nap. I've got a gym session this afternoon, so that's gonna be fun. But yeah, thanks for watching, and hopefully see you on the next one.